You wake up tomorrow and you're worth $600 million. Nobody else knows. Not your bank manager, not your spouse, not the IRS. Not yet, anyway. No headlines, no LinkedIn congratulations, no calls from people you haven't spoken to since high school. Just you, a number, and the silence that comes right after it. Here's the uncomfortable part. That silence is the most valuable thing you now own, and almost nobody who suddenly gets rich understands that until it's too late. Stay with me, because what happens in the next 10 minutes of your imaginary life is exactly what happens in slow motion to real people every single year. Lottery winners, startup founders after an acquisition, early crypto holders, athletes who signed one contract. The pattern is identical. Only the zeros change. Let's set the scene properly. $600 million isn't rich in the way most people picture rich. Rich is a nice house, a paid-off car, maybe a boat you use twice a year. $600 million is different. $600 million is a category shift. At a conservative 4% return, the number of financial planners use because it's boring and it works, that's $24 million a year before you touch a single dollar of principal. Every year, forever, just for existing. Put that in perspective. The median American household income is around $80,000 a year. Your passive income doing absolutely nothing is roughly 300 times that. Not your net worth. Your interest, your spare change generates more in 12 months than most families will earn across 3 generations. And here's the first twist. That number is now the most dangerous thing you own, because the moment people know you have it, you stop being a person to them. You become a resource, a problem to be solved in their favor. Old friends become old friends with requests. Family becomes family but with requests. Strangers become, and this is real, strangers who somehow know your phone number within about 6 weeks. So the smart play, the play almost nobody actually makes, is silence. Not because you're hiding something illegal, because visibility is a tax. A tax nobody warns you about, and unlike the IRS, this one never stops collecting. Let's talk about why this matters right now, in 2026, more than at almost any point before. We're living through the largest quiet wealth transfer in human history. Trillions of dollars are moving, from aging parents to adult children, from early tech and crypto bets that finally paid off, from companies going private or public in massive liquidity events. Most of this money does not arrive with fanfare. It arrives as a number on a screen, deposited by a lawyer on a Tuesday. And the people receiving it are walking into a system that was never built for them. The financial industry, the tax code, even basic social etiquette, none of it was designed around the idea of an ordinary person suddenly holding institutional-level wealth. So they improvise. And improvising with $600 million is how fortunes get cut in half within a decade. It happens constantly. It just happens quietly, which is sort of the whole point of this video. So let's break down how this actually works, step by step. What does being a silent millionaire, or in your case, a silent multi-hundred millionaire, actually look like mechanically? Step 1. The money doesn't sit in a checking account, obviously, but here's what people don't picture. It doesn't sit in one place at all, it gets split. Some goes into low volatility index funds, generating that steady 4%. Some goes into municipal bonds, which the wealthy love for one specific, slightly absurd reason. The interest is often tax-free. Yes, there's a version of investing where the government basically says, if you lend money to build a bridge, we won't tax what you earn from it. Most people never use this. The wealthy use it constantly. It's not a secret. It's just not advertised to anyone without 7 figures to put in. Some of the money goes into private equity or real estate, assets that are deliberately illiquid, meaning you can't easily turn them into cash. Why would anyone want that? Because illiquidity is a feature, not a bug. It's a wall between your money and your own impulses. It's also a wall between your money and everyone else's impulses, including future versions of yourself who might want to do something regrettable with $20 million on a Friday night. Step 2. You build what's politely called a family office, even if your family is just you and a cat. This is a small team, an accountant, a lawyer, maybe a trustee, whose entire job is to make sure your name appears on as few public documents as possible. Trusts hold assets instead of you personally. LLCs hold the trusts. The LLCs are registered in states that don't require you to publicly list who owns them. This isn't a loophole, it's the front door. It's how the system has worked for decades. Most people just never had a reason to walk through it. Step 3, and this is where it gets genuinely strange. You start living a life that looks almost identical to your old one. Same car for a while, same apartment maybe. Because the visible signs of wealth, the watch, the car, the new house, and the good neighborhood, are exactly the signals that turn you from anonymous to interesting. And interesting, when you have $600 million, is a liability. Now, here's the uncomfortable math, the part most people skip. $600 million sounds infinite. It is not infinite. It's just very, very large, and very large numbers have a way of disappearing faster than you'd think, because the things that drain wealth scale with the wealth itself. A modest lifestyle upgrade for someone with $600 million doesn't look modest. A nice house in a major city is now $10, $15, $20 million. A staff to maintain that house, security, household management, a person whose entire job is logistics, easily runs into the high six figures annually, and that's before anyone does anything you'd call extravagant. Then there's the part nobody likes to say out loud. People will try to take it. Not violently, legally. Lawsuits against wealthy individuals are a known asset class. There are entire law firms whose business model is finding plaintiffs to attach to a wealthy defendant, because even a nuisance settlement of a few $1,000,000 is worth pursuing when the target has hundreds of millions. You don't have to do anything wrong, you just have to be visible enough to be worth suing. This is the part where the math gets darkly funny. The richer you become, the more your life starts to resemble a fortress, not because you're paranoid, but because the cost-benefit analysis for everyone around you has changed. Your friend's struggling business idea is suddenly an opportunity for both of us. Your cousin's medical bills are suddenly something you'd obviously want to help with. None of these people are villains, they're just doing the math too. Everyone is doing the math. You're simply the only one who can see the whole spreadsheet. Now let's contrast the hype with the reality, because pop culture has sold us a very specific image of what $600 million looks like, and it's almost entirely wrong. The hype? Yachts, private jets, mansions with names, a life that looks like a luxury watch advertisement. The reality? The genuinely wealthy, the ones who stay wealthy, often live in a kind of deliberate beige. Same neighborhood, same coffee shop, a car that's nice but not memorable. Why? Because every visible marker of wealth is a recruitment poster for people who want a piece of it. The truly rich aren't hiding because they're ashamed. They're hiding because visibility has a cost, and they've done the math on that cost more carefully than anyone. There's a quiet irony here. The entire culture of flexing wealth online, the cars, the watches, the private jets on social media, is statistically far more associated with people who recently got money and are about to lose a lot of it than with people who've had serious money for decades. The flex is often the last gasp of new money trying to feel like it belongs. Old money doesn't post. Old money doesn't need to. Now zoom out. Because this isn't really a story about one hypothetical person with $600 million. It's a story about a structural shift happening across the entire economy. We're entering a period where wealth is becoming simultaneously more concentrated and more invisible. The mechanisms that let money stay private, trusts, LLCs, offshore structures, even certain types of life insurance policies used as investment vehicles, aren't new. What's new is the scale. As more wealth gets created through tech, equity, and asset appreciation rather than wages, more of it flows through these private channels by default, not by conspiracy. It's simply how large pools of capital are now managed. The implication is this: a meaningful and growing share of the wealth in the world is functionally invisible to the public, to researchers, even to some tax authorities. Not because it's hidden in a vault, but because it's been legally and routinely restructured into forms that don't show up on the radar most people use to measure rich. Which raises a question that should make you a little uneasy. If a huge and growing portion of wealth is structurally designed to be invisible, what does that do to everyone else's sense of how the economy actually works? When the visible economy, wages, prices, the cost of a house relative to income, keeps getting harder for ordinary people, while a parallel, quieter economy of compounding, tax-advantaged, legally shielded capital keeps growing in the background, are these two economies actually connected anymore? Or are we already living in two separate financial systems, and only one of them is required to be loud? That's the question worth sitting with. Because somewhere, right now, someone just became a silent millionaire. And the silence wasn't an accident.